Alright, so I came across this video and saw a lot of argumentation in the comments. And the reason for this, I believe, is because a lot of people are mixing up absorption of protein and the utilization of protein for muscle protein synthesis. Every time we eat a sufficient amount of protein, we instigate a process called muscle protein synthesis. And as the name may suggest, this is the process of synthesizing muscle proteins, which will increase the size of our muscles. And it appears that a bolus of 25 grams of protein is able to give us about 90% of the maximal protein synthesis that we can get from the ingestion of protein. And as we increase protein intake, we get diminishing returns, meaning that over about 25 or 30 grams of protein, eating more protein doesn't seem to increase the amount of muscle that we put on. With that being said, this doesn't mean that the other 70 grams are simply just going to fall out the other end on the porcelain throne, because protein is digested as amino acids. And amino acids are just the building blocks of protein. I've used this analogy before, but you can think of protein like a macaroni necklace. And each individual amino acid is like a piece of macaroni. You string these amino acids together to make one big long protein. And digestion is like removing each of these pieces of macaroni. And we absorb each of them individually, and then use these amino acids to resynthesize proteins inside of our body. Just like rebuilding the macaroni necklace after you've taken it apart. But there's only so much of this protein synthesis process that we can go through at any one time. But amino acids can simply just be used for other functions. For example, many of these amino acids are considered gluconeogenic amino acids, meaning that the liver can simply just turn these amino acids into glucose. So yes, eating hundreds of grams of protein at once is kind of like eating expensive carbohydrates, because these amino acids will eventually be turned into glucose if there's excess. And then if this glucose remains in the bloodstream and isn't utilized because maybe we had a source of carbohydrates in the meal, then this excess glucose will be converted into fat. Which is why it's not impossible to get fat eating a lot of protein. However, it is extremely difficult. And it's typically only going to occur if you're eating excessive amounts of protein alongside excessive amounts of fat and carbohydrates. But the confusion in this video is that we will absorb all of the protein that we eat. But not all of the amino acids from this protein absorption will be used for protein synthesis. Some of them will simply be converted into other macromolecules that we would use for energy or storage. So if you're trying to get the most out of every gram of protein, you'd probably benefit from capping your protein at each meal around 30 to 35 grams, and maybe increasing this to 45 to 50 grams prior to bed. Or, as Donald Layman points out, who is a lead protein researcher, possibly having this 50-gram bolus in the morning, because it does appear to set us up for more protein synthesis at lower protein intake throughout the rest of the day. Meaning that if we get this 50-gram bolus in the morning, and our next meal may only contain 20 grams of protein, it won't hinder our protein synthesis as much as if we only had 20 grams at breakfast. And if you want to learn a ton about protein, I would recommend looking up Dr. Donald Layman and Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. But this video is just trying to clear up some of the confusion about the difference between absorption and utilization. And if you're interested in learning how you can both look good and feel good, send me a DM and we'll set up a consultation.